Hello, my name is Styx, and welcome to Styxperience, a show where I have experienced something and then I talk about it. And I have just witnessed through the interwebs the E3 2017 Sony press conference, and I'm going to recap and analyze that and give a score at the end here. So I'm going to go again point by point and criticizing the event where it needs to and giving positive where it needs to. Uh, Quick point though, the overall feel I got is it was in the okay good department, but that actually in the Sony slot, that's actually a little disappointing. I was even at the very beginning, I was pretty much certain that I would like the Sony conference the most, and it would get the highest score from me and all that. But we'll see. It's gonna be tricky. What's gonna turn out to be the best one here, because it's it did kind of underperform for me, and I hear for some other people as well. But and this might be a touch late because of some technical difficulties, but here we are now. And starting off, the conference itself starts with a montage of stuff that I would have to imagine either have released or are known trailers of things that are in the process of being developed. So they showed like in a quick montage, Abzu, Hot Shots, Golf, Death Stranding, Sniper Elite, Injustice 2. So there's a lot of multi-platforms in your montage, which is kind of weird. I mean, not weird, I guess. But I sort of expected them to be more or less either exclusives or console PC exclusives. But sure. If well, whatever floats your boat, I suppose. And has also a number of their VR games, but nothing new and no names and all that. And then they go to a commercial of PlayStation View. Like there's like a TV spot or something, and I'm like, huh. I I can't remember if they've started these conferences with a a commercial before like that, but this one did. That was a bit weird. But sure. Although I don't know if they cut into the conference feed early and they were still in some sort of a pre thing, but they started with the montage, so I think it was supposed to be a part of the conference, which is just don't do a commercial of like a TV spot, which is just it looks kind of lame, or it feels lame. And then they go into another commercial of a golden PlayStation 4 with actors in a home playing with it, and yay, awesome golden PlayStation 4. Like, okay, I came to this real hype and hoping and positive, and they start off with a really lame foot there. I'm like, what? Uh, why? That is just odd. It's really the equivalent of. I mean, imagine if something like Microsoft would show at the very 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 beginning like a TV spot ad for the controller or something, or the Elite controller or whatever, and I'm like, I would be just as just put off there or anywhere. Don't do TV spot commercials at the first. That is just odd. And then they start the actual, the on-stage presence, and they have this. I'm not going to go into the stage a whole bunch beyond this point of what it is, but basically, if you remember, last year they had the live orchestra. This time they start off with I think it was four people playing traditional Indian or other Asian instruments. I think I spotted a sitar at least, and a couple of others like a variation of small drums, which probably I would get wrong by naming them something. So, but that sort of thing, and it sounds like they make music which sounds like a soundtrack note of something that would play in a desert or an a bazaar maybe, or you know, so it feels like that's probably the Uncharted game, and that is what it is. But before I go into that, the stage itself, they have these. I think that they're trying to make it in a weird way 4D, where they have these sort of light effects of stuff at this point on the screen behind the the musicians, and then into the audience they seem to sometimes drop like holographic snow, which is that's actually that's fine, but they also have when there's a gory game, they have actual actors hanging down from the top of the stage, just physical actual actors. And I'm like, that's just. I think you're blowing your money on the wrong stuff there, man. And and the lowest thing is they have this weird thing where in front of the screen they roll out this a huge one, but still smaller than the actual big screen, another screen in front of it showing the same stuff, and it just disorients the viewer. Like, what? Why are you putting this in front of me instead of showing me the actual screen and what's in there? It's really that's like a swing and a miss. Like, what are you doing? No, come on, man, no. Okay, but moving on then, and they indeed start with the Uncharted stuff, and I'll be looking at my notes again a lot because I really need to, you know, look at those to remember the names and times and stuff and whatever. So, indeed, they start with a of the trailer of the Uncharted: The Lost Legacy game with the two ladies, and a narrator speaks of, you know, a trident, a bow and arrow, an axe, you know, artifacts, and they adventure, go in tombs, talk to a man who feels like they've betrayed him, and they fight, and I mean, and they show some, you know, action set pieces of explosions and escaping these explosions, and I'm like, yeah, that looks like an Uncharted game. That's really about it. But yeah, it looks beautiful. That's sure. That's a fair start, and I think people like the notion of, you know, continuing the adventures in the world, but without Drake and these controlling these ladies or one of them. So that's okay. Sure, you know, a small positive there. Like, oh, okay, we started off, and then, you know, let's see what's onward. I mean, it's not like moving me in any direction, but you know, sure, Uncharted, sure, great. And then they do a trailer that is winter, and it shows tribal people in the snow and rivers and mountains and geysers, and it's pretty as fuck. It's super pretty, and it is a Horizon thing. So, and then Aloy is there, and I think she's wearing like the armor or suit or something from the end of the, you know, main game, or the last game, and it's called. And they mentioned looking for answers in a mountain, and I'm like, okay, and it's called Horizon: The Frozen Wilds. I don't know if it's a DLC or a standalone expansion, but still, that's probably that's what it's either one of those. And coming this year, cool. That's a super solid game, and more of that is never bad. And the snow looks nice, and it looks beautiful. Good. You know, not really. I wouldn't call it you know, a jumping out of my seat like, whoa, I couldn't see this coming, but good game, and you know, it hits like the Dishonored 2 expansion thing. It's like, okay, more of a good game or a standalone thing of a good game. Good. That's great. And then they move into into a gameplay trailer. Days Gone. And with this they roll for like 7 or 8 minutes. or something like this. Uh, so if you remember, Days Gone is the motorcycles and zombies, and I know, not technically zombies because heavily maybe mutated or virus or but in every practical sense they're zombies. They're essentially even they're they're invoking very clearly World War Z imagery in the hordes of the zombies. It's so zombies, it's like, come on, man, it's zombies in all practical senses, and it doesn't matter if it's technically a fungus or a virus of this some type or heavy mutated what. No, I don't care. It's zombies, okay? but uh, but that's the thing. It looked pretty and okay as a technical game before, but it's had like a couple of chances at different showings to be a trailer, be a create in interest, and we're like, yeah, open world bike zombies, and don't really care. It's it's really hard to make zombies interesting, in any game ever. Like zombies were extremely old, like a dusty old fucking, tomb of an old thing when The Walking Dead season 1 Telltale came out. And now it's been what, 3 4 years since that, and it no one, I mean, no one, but zombies is so beyond overdone. It's just you need maybe don't do zombies is the answer. If you want to have a like here's just an idea. If you want to have an open world survive against a mutating virus, which how about have that mutating virus only affect animals and no humans? Humans just die and whatever, or are attacked by the animals and then just. How about that? You would essentially have probably something like it would maybe resemble something like a Metro game then, but without the radiation, and it's okay to be outside technically, but they're just horrible creatures everywhere, and it's the real world. That would be so much more interesting. Don't have the human zombies. It's so like I get it. They go and they eat and uh, it, it, it's no. I It looks really beautiful. It looks pretty. It looks great, and it shows. I'll recap a few points from the 7 or 8 minutes. The protagonist drives a bike and shoots some wolves or something and gets attacked by people, actual humans, and they do some knife fighting and strangling, and then he sees a corpse, and I swear this is true, and I know it's not. I know copying is the greatest form of flattery and all, and I'm not saying everything has to be super innovative. No, it doesn't. I know, but in a game where they're all already like zombies and such, he uses the Witcher vision. He's like a Witcher, just vroom and showing the tracks and everything glowing in a color around the corpse, and it shows like the path to follow with the tracks, and I'm like, really? I mean, again, I suppose you can do that. It's not a patented thing, or you can, of course, fine, but zombies and let's take the Witcher vision from here, and and you might as well. You could also call it a detective mode, I guess, the vision, but still, it's like, yeah, that's really. I'm starting to feel like it's the Battleborn thing again, where it's just a whole the Gearbox hero shooter or whatever, where it's just, all this has been done somewhere else and before and better so much. Like, no, that's that doesn't help with the uninspired feel I get from the game at all. I'm like, oy. And then uh, he sneaks to near a camp and basically grabs a bear trap, puts it down near the dudes in the camp, and then hides behind a tent just crouching so they really should actually see him, but and he throws a rock and distracts uh, the people, but only one of them goes near the thrown rock spot and walks into the bear trap, like poof, and I'm like, okay, sure, and yeah, and then he moves on from there and shows a horde of zombies and another horde of zombies, and I'm like, these people don't have a lot of self-preservation skills. To first they walk into a bear trap, going to a spot where while trying to look for the sound a rock made into a really pretty obvious one, to be honest. And then they have two hordes of zombies like 15 meters away from the camp, and I'm like, how I don't sure. The other horde is eating a corpse, and he just sneaks past, and under a wall, a flimsy wall, a kind of a shantytown wall, even, and into another, a camp or an outpost where he's supposed to rescue like an NPC. He blows up a hole in the wall. The horde then just pours through there to attack the outpost, and he frees the NPC, and sure. And he meets a mutated barbed wire, or I don't know if it's mutated. It's a barbed wire covered bear with a lot of injuries. I don't know if it's zombified or mutated, or is it just really injured and angry. I wasn't quite sure, but but that was like the one glimpse. I was like, how about focus on just those animals and do that sort of thing, and just have normal dudes and no zombies. Like so you can lure the horde to do stuff and destroy outposts. Sure, like it's kind of a Far Cry-ish feel in the concept of take these outposts or such, and or at least destroy them, and lure the wildlife, quote unquote, to help you with that. And it looks really pretty. The world looks really, really, really nice and all that. But boy, this game has had its chance. To create excitement. It's that chance is gone to me. I don't care. It's like a really lull moment. Like you've been trying to push this Days Gone down to people for the third event at least. One E3 and I think one, I want to say PSX, but not sure. But still, like, if people would care, they would care. I mean, you're done with that. Use your time to something more interesting at this point. Really, really do. No. And then the Sony boss comes to talk and mentions games that they have shown, and talks about brands and web portals and anticipated titles at E3, not saying names, but like, and we have the most anticipated titles of entire E3 or something, and like, that's the same issue as with Microsoft. You don't talk a whole lot, but when you do, you say buzzwords and nothing actual. Like, no one should ever do that. That's just no. Come to talk when you have something to actually say. But he does indeed then introduce a game with a cult following. I'm like, okay, and it immediately looks to me like a Monster Hunter thing, and it is. And it's a character moving around in a forest and meets man-sized lizards and goes to a beach and makes a ghillie suit or a leaf suit out of a bush and sees a really big dinosaur. I'm like, okay, now I'm interested. I'm curious. I hear Monster Hunter is super duper duper good, demanding but super good. I'm like, interesting. But and then fights a dinosaur, runs away from the dinosaur then, and the creatures look super nice. The environment, okay at least, like good. So it's not a Horizon Zero Dawn sort of a beautiful, but they look solid. They for a Monster Hunter game, especially, I like it. The visuals are just yeah, good. And then a wyvern. I always say that a wyvern comes to fight the dinosaur, and it's called the Monster Hunter World. Early 2018. I think it turns out it's for all platforms, but that's really not the point of my thing here. It's like, what is the entertainment value of your presentation, not what's exclusive or not exclusive, or what that's not as important to me as to other people. So good one, Monster Hunter, high point. Curious, interested. And then they cut to a trailer which shows architecture which clearly looks like the Shadow of the Colossus, and I'm like, hold on, didn't they re-release the game like just a little while ago or something? I feel like I remember that happening, and I'm like, again? Because they show like the exact bridge of the game and into the which is just which goes into the, I think, the hub place or whatever it was called, I think. But so and I'm like, okay, what's and it shows then many of the early colossi, I think 1, 2, and 3 at least, and like, and it looks good, and the character model itself looks great, and the animation of the run isn't as janky as it was before. It's still recognizable as the same run, but it isn't as well, bad as it was in the original game. It's a fucking diamond masterpiece of a game, but that running animation has always been just odd. It is, huh? It's like jointy. It like pulls in a weird like lurching motion before. But anyway, looks good, and it is indeed what seems to be a remake of the game. And I'm like, and 2018. I'm like, sure, yeah. Always good to bring that game again because it's fucking awesome. But sure, yeah. Oh, good, great. And then we do a trailer of Marvel Infinite, and that I don't know. So I immediately see the character models they look bad. They look really simplistic to me, in as much as in most Street Fighter games for a long time, the same characters have looked like just generations better. I'm like, huh? They look like plasticky, and how should I put it? It's really close to reminding me of almost Disney Infinity in some of them. I'm like, that's not and then it's a fighting game, which usually isn't my thing anyway, and I'm like, no, that really fell flat for me. And it like Chun-Li especially has that character model looks bad. I'm like, no, that's not Chun-Li, man, no, September 18th that, but hey, it has Rocket Raccoon and he's funny, but I'm not gonna play it. I think the genre is something I usually don't really go into more than a story mode, if that, and Like in Injustice 2, I did, but yeah, and that is that I don't like the look. It just no, that's a miss to me. Like, man, and that is the uh, the moment where we jump into a lull like era of this press conference. Like really, first Days Gone was one, and then we went up for a couple of ones, and but yeah. So now we show a trailer which mentions cities and places which are famous as World War II conflict areas, and I'm like okay, and there's a trailer which looks like it could be cinematic, but then it cuts into gameplay enough that I think it's an in-engine ish sometimes gameplay thing of I'm like okay, and it shows trenches and snow and paratroopers that come to a city. It looks pretty, sure, great, but they shoot guns in World War II. A plane attacks a destroyer ship, and combat everywhere. It looks pretty and gritty, but and it just ends, and it has a really just a song choice which doesn't fit for me. It's just it doesn't do anything to enhance the trailer at all. Something that COD has done pretty okay in a lot of cases before. I'm like, that's really kind of fell flat. Like it didn't do, and I remember the fatigue of the World War II shooter. I mean, the subject matter alone is kind of difficult to get, me invested in anyway. And then that trailer didn't do. And it was worse than pretty much every other one I've seen of, bringing out a COD game for the first E3. I mean, it usually goes like they start slow, like in an underwater, a diving stealth mission, or going into space and seeing what's what, and then just escalating into a fight. Or this just, hey, World War II, and we fight and end. Sure. Nah. Whatever. And then we go into Skyrim. The game that never ever ever fucking dies in press conferences. I'm like, okay, and it's the VR Skyrim, the PSVR Skyrim. And I know the PSVR is kind of underpowered in I mean you have to downgrade the games a lot to make them run on. I know that's fine, but whoa, it then looks bad as a trailer. And just the movements of the equipment and bows and arrows, and it looks so janky and and I'm like, and it lasts like a minute, and I'm like, ooh, no, it showed bad. Even if I'm willing to believe there's people, like a lot of them, who are curious of VRing in the world of Skyrim, even after all this time. I can absolutely believe that. But man, that showed terribly. It looked so just muddy or like murky and not sharp at all, and the janky movement of everything. Like, who fell asleep on the job there? No. And I guess it's then at least honest and not lying when it shows bad, I guess. But that, so I guess I kind of a thumbs up for that. But Jesus, it was. Just don't show anything if that's what you have, for fuck's sake. And there's the VR block then, and that's all VR stuff for a while. And then we get a Game Trust game, which is Game Trust is the GameStop publishing thing. So a purple-haired sci-fi lady running in 2D. You're looking at her from a 2D perspective, and it's a VR game, and I'm like, sure. And runs, activates a giant robot, and the robot drops a hand to shield the lady from a giant bug. And the end. Game's called Star Child. The VR because sure, huh? Like maybe you go into into the robot, but and I think the robot sort of pulls her right at the very last second, kind of into her chest. But is it just to protect her, or do we control the robot? We didn't control the robot in the trailer, but is that the point? But if that's the point, then that's where the trailer should have like continued or started from. For us. No, weird is the answer. Like, and just not curious at all. Even sure, huh? I mean, as a game in itself, it would have been just fine. Like many of the things we've seen in a lot of places where, oh, a 2D game of jumping and going and sci-fi, and okay, sure, fine, why not? But as a VR, I'm like, huh? Why? And then another VR trailer, because that's the block we're in. We see an old-timey radio, and okay, and it shows like hospital footage. Maybe a mental hospital, maybe there's something, there's a normal, I mean, you know, beds and nurses, and then it zooms out, and it's by the super massive games, right? I think, and it zooms out to show the outside of the mental hospital or sanitarium or whatever, and that site I recognize as, I'm pretty sure that is the sanitarium that's in Until Dawn. So they're making a VR game that happens in that sanitarium probably before Until Dawn happened, because I think Supermassive is the people who were at least involved with or even made Until Dawn, right? So, okay. Sure. I hear horror is the future of VR. If it so, okay. Let's see. We have had one VR Until Dawn game which was bad, or at least I hear it was pretty underwhelming. The roller coaster ride and you shoot stuff like what? So not really. Always hope for the best, but you know the track record isn't there, at least in these VR things. So, and then one more VR trailer, and there's gonna be more. Final Fantasy 15 Fishing. Monsters of the Deep is its name. FF15 Monster of the Deep. I think it's Monster of the Deep, not or Monsters. Anyway, so, and you fish like giant angler fish or such stuff. I'm like, but from the surface waters, and I'm like, huh. Okay. Whatever. And I mean, what do you even say to that? It's like VR fishing in Final Fantasy. I don't really have even an opinion. Like, don't care. And then we have a and and this is, yeah. So VR trailer, soldiers in a city, and doesn't look pretty again. It looks murky. It brown colors like it looks brown colors like all the shooters looked like in 2006 or something. That sort of the brown color palette of just dirt and shit everywhere and nothing else, no color. I'm like, okay, don't do that, man. That's I know technical like limitation, but you can do colors. I think you can do colors, right? And you have like a team of dudes, or you're one of a team of dudes, and you shoot stuff in a city, and that's the trailer. Guess the name and the name. So if you have a super duper generic looking shoot stuff in a brown city, the end. then you need a really inspired name to to completely, differentiate yourself in the market and gather some interest and really show that you have inspiration under the hood. The name of the game is Bravo Team. Yeah. No. That's like a what? Why do you even bother at that point? Like, what? At least, at least try to like pretend you're trying, man. No, Bravo Team, really? Was the combat game taken, or soldier shoots rifle game? Was that taken too? What the fuck? No, come on, like try at least. And then we see a game by Polyarch, a VR game again, and it's forest and butterflies and a mouse with a green glove. Okay, who is the protagonist? And you control it from the outside perspective again. So it's like, okay, but why is it a VR game if it's outside perspective platformer or adventure game? What? And it meets a big snake. Okay, well, sure. And it's called Moss. Doesn't look terrible at all, but again, if it's an outside perspective, I don't understand why it needs to be a VR game at all. That puzzles me. If you're gonna do a VR game, why are you not making a game which actually does stuff that a normal game couldn't pull off without the... Or, I mean, if you want to make a game that'll work in, both a console and in VR, I can understand that, but even most of those stuff is usually at least in first person, man. Like, Skyrim looked terrible, but it's at least has, a console and a VR version then, obviously. And Resident Evil 7 has that and all that. Why make a outside perspective platforming or an adventuring thing in VR? I don't get it. No. And then it shows the stage shows a short, trailer video of the PS4 console. And I'm like, I know we're at the PlayStation Sony thing. And then I get it. Oh, they are trying to tell me that we are now showing after this point the actual console games again. And I realize, so yeah, the VR block happens with an audible thunk. In like a huge chunk in the middle of the whole thing, and it's all just why? It's like between bad and why. And the hospital one is like, okay, I want to hear what that happens to be in the end, but I'm not, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Just like, oh, it's probably going to be awesome. I didn't see any reason to think that. It's like, VR in hospital, bye. Sure. And I think it was a cinematic trailer, so it didn't show like actual what are we gonna do. And just before we go into the next trailer, the lull moment, starting from Marvel Infinite, and then going through the card game and the VR block, that took something like, what would that like it? I think it was, my timestamps might be a bit loose here, but I think it's something around, it's at least 15 minutes, probably 16 minutes, let's say between 15 and 17 minutes of only that. And at least 15 in my opinion, so fuck. That's a long lull of having a lot of just misses as games. And you paid a lot of money to be the one who markets the Call of Duty games, and you just put this whatever trailer which just doesn't do anything. Oh, and it gets even better. I later on very quickly learned that the trailer is called the official multiplayer reveal trailer, which wasn't in any way communicated in that. It was just no UI, no nothing to say it was multiplayer. It was just first person or from a outside cinematic perspective combat happening in World War II. That makes it even worse. It was a lame trailer which wasn't communicating the thing it was supposed to communicate. It was like, fuck. Come on. And I'm like, we are in the Sony conference, right? The one which usually, like, multiple years in a row is by a pretty clear margin the best one of them all. What has happened? Okay, and then we indeed reach the actual console games again, and it shows Detroit. The dude's name was David Cage, he made or directed Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls. That's that stuff. So now it's the Detroit game. And a character starts singing, which is a robot, and then a trailer shows the city, which kind of actually looks not unlike the Deus Ex cities of the Human Revolution era, really. Maybe not quite as futuristic, but really, really close. It's quite close to, in my opinion. And, and the characters really, they run in the city. They're like a resistance that are trying to free their own kind, like their own robots from like stores before they get sold as, probably servants or something. And then the male person who's the leader of the operation of that when they're in the store, he says to the to the robots, the robot humans, that you can be your own masters, and I'm going to show that you can be your own masters. And they all yell to him, I'll follow you, yeah! As opposed to them being their own masters. It's a bit of a silly moment, like, okay, sure. Whatever. So, but, okay. And then they still emphasize the choices and the consequences, like if you take cover here or run away here, when the police car comes, then a different thing happens. I'm like, okay, I get it. We know this already from last year. So, but at least the gameplay looked in this a bit more moving. Not like maybe actiony, but a third person, let's go into the place kind of and not just cinematics with choices. So at least there was that. But that's really it. And then it starts showing at the end these slogans of live by your decisions and things have consequences. And I don't like slogans if they don't give anything we don't already know. And we know that stuff. So slogan text which just boom come to the screen, that's the wrong way to do it. If it's something you can show, then just show it with the actual trailer of the game and not like a text. And in this case, they have shown it. We know this. Like, broom slogan, no. That's not the way to do it. It's not a terrible trailer. It obviously looks beautiful again, but it's kind of like, it's like a tiny blip again in my radar. Like, oh, okay, but I know this stuff. That's nothing new here, really, except for the fact that it's kind of a third-personally run thing. So, sure, whatever. And then Destiny 2. I don't play Destiny, but I'm like, but they usually have pretty, pretty trailers here and there. So okay, this was not. All right, I'm not saying it doesn't look pretty as a game, but it just showed like almost like a half-baked cutscene of just this white-skinned, masked big brute dude hulking around like walking around and kicking what looked like a player character out of a rooftop in the sci-fi Destiny world, and it starts showing slogans like "In our darkest hour, new legends will rise, September 6th," and it takes like 1.5 or less than 2 minutes, and I'm like, that's your Destiny 2 thing. You again paid millions upon and at the end of it, okay, so while I understand to an extent if someone wants to say that this game is exclusive to this and that, it annoys me. It annoyed me in the Microsoft stuff where they even muddled the exclusive stuff, like what is and isn't and whatever. But in here they go in fucking deep. They go into the dirty, almost pathetic sounding stuff like, and we have in this one an exclusive strike, an exclusive gear, and an exclusive this gear, and an exclusive biotic weapon, and an exclusive PvP map. So, this thing and this piece of equipment, and I'm like, and, a text for every single one of them. And I'm like, whoa, like, that comes off as both dirty and desperate. Like, really, like, come on. Really, come on. You can say that this game is exclusive. I'm like, it annoys me a bit, but sure. You can do that. I'm not going to, make a problem with that. But that's like, that seems just petty even. Like, this exclusive one finger, thing almost. And it's just every single one. And I'm like, fuck off, man. I mean, it wasn't exactly a finger, but they did say an exclusive biotic weapon, and this exclusive gear, and this exclusive... Fuck me, man. Come. And the trailer was just bad. It was so lackluster, and you paid millions to be the only one who can advertise Destiny 2 in your conference. Like, then do that with something actually substantial and pretty looking. Not... Ugh. And again, I'm wondering what am I like? Most of the stuff. Well, okay, I'm kind of being all like I'm picking apart problems. None of the stuff was super duper disastrous or something, but there's just so much like lull nothing. There's a flatlining. It's like, okay, it's a game. And okay, it's a game. Okay, it's a game again. That like nothing moving. Like, remember the Resident Evil, showing last year, and the Last of Us 2 surprise, and all that sort of stuff, and even the Final Fantasy VII remake thing a couple of years back. Those emotion rising, like, whoa things, like, oh my god, there's none of that here. Oh, and I actually indeed, now that I remember, I believe I did indeed jump across one thing. Oddly enough, but yeah, so they also did at one point in the press conference. Man, that's odd. So I should mention they did indeed show God of War. Not at this point, but earlier on. I just, for some reason, my eyes just skimmed past that. Like, whoa. So anyway, it actually might have been in nearby the lull moment to ease that a bit. I think that was what it is. Yeah. So what that was a oh, there we are. Yes, it was exactly after the lull moment. Actually, exactly after the VR block. Why did I not? My eyes just missed that level of my notes. So, yeah. So they show Kratos with his blue axe and his son, and he throws the axe into the sea. Or what? Well, I assume it's his son, right? So. And it looks like he's expecting it to come back. Like he's doing a motion like Thor does when the hammer is coming and it's not coming or something. And they see a big wolf at some point, and some unseen talker taunts him. A person like a male voice, like "Ooh, you are nothing," whatever. So sure. And then a lady talks to him in a friendly way, and so okay, and he actually sees this woman, and they like close the door or something, and like okay, fine. And then it shows some combat, third person axe combat action, much closer than in the usual God of War. So okay, that's what I expected. Sure, good. You showed what you needed to show there, and hit some skeleton zombie warriors with the axe. And at one point, the axe indeed materializes in his hand. So it either comes back from a distance really quickly or just teleports there or something. So okay, now we know. Like Mjolnir or something, and that's probably the point. Like Mjolnir, Norse mythology, that sort of stuff. And then they talk about something about being cursed at some point, and that the boy knows the truth about Kratos, but they don't go into that beyond that. So okay, that sounds like a curious story. Things okay, could be good. And then they see a huge sea monster where the eye is as big as Kratos is, and it's like a Loch Ness thing with a beard and everything, and a good looking one. Right, the game is pretty, looks good, awesome, graphically great, and it's early 2018, and they say that the boy translates the sea monster's speech to him and says like he says he wants to help, and it spits the Kratos' axe into the boat, the one he threw at the very beginning into the sea. So okay, and there's a good one, a good showing. It takes like 6 minutes, but it's showing interesting things pretty much throughout. So that's good. Looks beautiful, and I'm really interested in the notion of having to or creating some feeling or caring about Kratos again, because for me the character of Kratos was he had a pretty interesting arc of a Greek tragedy in the first game, God of War 1, back in the day, and then in every game after that, and in every pretty much prequel even after and before and whatever that, his entire character, like his like character motivation and his person is all just, I want to kill stuff because gore and blood, and that's it. He immediately becomes a caricature of himself and just blood, yay, because blood, awesome, kill, like fuck, angry. The character really just went down the drain for me, like even in God of War 2 and all beyond that, whatever, man, don't care. So now, indeed, with this, I'm looking forward to the idea of caring about the character again. Like there's actually like something to invest yourself in other than just, yay, combat and blood and guts. That's good. And indeed, I've been, criticizing with good reason a lot of things here. This, good. Also the Colossus stuff, good. And what was the thing before that? The Monster Hunter thing, good. Like there are good things, really good things, but boy, there's so much lull, nothing. And indeed, now going back to the point of after Destiny 2, the boss man comes and he talks about content and creators and making the PlayStation the best place to play, blah blah. And now I will leave you as the final game here with something that is an exclusive. And we already kind of guessed that there has to be a Spider-Man thing here somewhere, right? So, yep, that's it then. Which, okay, before I go here, that then means there's none. Well, okay, the Colossus thing was like, oh, surprising, awesome, you did something that great. Beyond that, and I think the Monster Hunter to an extent as well, but Monster Hunter thing, it's super multi-platform. It's not really their thing. They just show it. I know I don't really care that much, but it does a little bit of a blip there to me still. And the Colossus stuff, I mean, didn't they just release like a version and you can just play it pretty much? But sure, and just a remake, a better looking one. I mean, it's not that amazing. We've seen Colossus things a lot lately, so I don't know. It's good, but it's not a whoa thing. So Spider-Man looks pretty. Gameplay seems very Batman-y. It sneaky takedowns of henchmen, and it looks there stylish and fun, and it has like proximity web mine and all that. But the combat is very, 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 very Rocksteady Batman-y, like really Arkham, just down to a T, pretty much. Of course with Spider-Man's powers of this as web and that, but the flow is exactly that. You just it's really one-to-one with the Arkham games. Not bad. The system is great in that. That's okay. But it's still like I almost kind of hope for just some, Insomniac makes a Spider-Man game. I was hoping for something a bit more unique and making a personality for itself in the gameplay sense as well. So I'm like, it's okay then, but I don't know. I mean, it's probably still fun, but I'm kind of disappointed that does not have more of a personal feel of gameplay, like a bit more unique. But still, that's not a bad thing, just a bit uninspired, I suppose. And then a brute with fists that burst out with like dark energy or something fights Spidey, and it was like a big combat moment, and okay, and the UI has a life bar and a minimap, and then Spider-Man stops a huge crane from destroying the city, which starts to fall down because things explode and crash and go and webs the huge crane and all that, and starts chasing a helicopter which he has attached to a like a container thing or something like that, and has to at some point run through a building to avoid that same container, and goes and swings forward to catch the thing. And in the helicopter there's a Martin Lee character, which is like the source of the dark energy lightning stuff, which happens to be shot, and I'm like, okay, sure. And then eventually he catches the thing, and the copter is down in pieces a bit and all that, but the Martin Lee is fine. But so here's the thing. In between pretty much everything, and even in the combat sequences and all that, like when you go to the end of the crane, a QTE, when like every single little moment is joined together with a clear button prompt QTE thing. I'm like, and that seemed like a lot. Nothing like Arkham City, or the Arkham games have a bit of mash this button for a while in the combat sequences, but this was just every single set piece moment was pretty much sewn between each other with a press Y now, and press Y, then after that the next point, press Y now, and again the next point, press Y now. It's like it just pulls you out of it, and I'm like, no, that's no. That really just muddles the thing into a and like still fun, I suppose. I will believe you, but Batman combat and lots of QTEs, and I'm like, the web slinging movement looks perfectly fine and fluent. That's great, but so many QTEs. That's like, disappointing attach there, Looks okay, looks good, but not great, because so many QTEs and just Batman combat. Like, okay, so that's the way you're doing it then. Bummer. I was hoping you could make a better solution than press Y now and press this button now. And then it's montage time. The end. And the montage shows all the things we just saw. That's it. So, yeah. I was really thinking this would be the best one of them all when I started, and now I'm like, no, it's not. It's really weird. So there was super good things, well, good things, even, look, the God of War thing, look, was a really good segment. The Shadow of the Colossus remake, even if there has been a lot of Colossus things lately, still, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And the Monster Hunter stuff, once again, there's a Monster Hunter thing coming to consoles. Awesome. Great. But beyond that, there was zero surprises of, oh, they're making that. And people were really, me included, were expecting more, like something of Last of Us 2, maybe, or Devil May Cry, maybe, or, say, where's the Resident Evil 2 remake thing? That's been in development like for, what, 2 years now? Shouldn't there be something, a teaser trailer, something? And, Sony is often the one who gets those, surprising, there's the premiere of this really, awe-inspiring, emotion-creating thing, and nothing. And then the 15-minute lull of a VR block of just whatever, man. And Destiny 2, bad trailer. But no. COD, the Call of Duty one, bad. Whatever, man. Just come on. Spider-Man showed okay, sure, looks like he's having fun and all that, but God. It's okay, but nothing, it's not a big moment. It's okay, sure, a tiny positive, but kind of disappointing at the same time. So, but I do want to give some credit here. Well, actually, so if you remember, I criticized the Microsoft thing a bunch about the fact that they really emphasized that this game is an exclusive, or a console launch exclusive, or a Windows 10 console exclusive, and they muddled the waters of what the fuck it even is with what kind of an exclusive it is. I gave them shit for that, and I think it was really warranted. I was really ready to give a big thumbs up to Sony for not doing that a bunch. They mentioned the word exclusive once or twice at most. I'm like, okay, in their talking. I'm like, okay, that's you don't need to. Until the Destiny 2 thing happened. We have an exclusive strike, and an exclusive gear, and an exclusive biotic weapon, and an exclusive PvP map, and it's just, come on, it feels so like a tiny. Look at this one tiny little gun that happens to be only on PlayStation. Come on, you can do better than that. You can use your time to show something more compelling than this one exclusive biotic weapon. Come on. Ugh. And this one gear. No. So they almost reached that goal of don't say exclusive a lot and boom, and they just missed it. Fuck. It was not a terrible press conference at all, but because of those super long lull moments, even though they talked extremely little, only the boss man pretty much talked there, and he talked 2 or 3 times at most, I think, and very, very little. That's a good thing, but so there was a game. That's a good thing, but most of the games were that flatline, whatever game. Most of them in the VR block, which don't do that anymore. If you don't have something super, super impressive, don't do a VR block of whatever. No. And the just whatever Call of Duty one, whatever Destiny 2 one. It's come on, man. It just and the Marvel Infinite too, like it really just fell flat. Like, okay, you have a couple of characters which already leaked anyway, and they most of them look bad. Great. Nah. Ugh. So it's like and it's really difficult to grade with a number because they technically checked the boxes of a technically, you know, well flowing conference. Game, 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 and really no talking almost at all in between there. That's the correct way to do it. And they had a bit of a, a tiny bit of a music flair like the orchestra was before, but now it's just the four dudes at the beginning and all that. But there was like the needless stage whatever, which were more distracting than anything else. Like, come on, the another screen coming in front of the screen so you can't actually see what you're supposed to be looking at. Why? That really didn't translate at all, at least into the stream. Like, what? Why? What? No, whoa, odd. So it didn't slow down into a halt, but it was just a lot of snoozing of like whatever game, whatever VR game, Days Gone thing, which just you don't do Days Gone again. People who want it now already want it. There's really no turning people beyond. Like, come on. And they had nothing super like, oh, that's the Resident Evil 7 reveal of this year, or Final Fantasy 7 remake. So they didn't sell a dream this time, not at all. And it's lackluster, disappointing. And I'm struggling to try to reach into an 8 with that. It's like a textbook, good pacing, but with 3 like good or great trailers. One like, okay, Uncharted, sure, and they just lull. Nothing. Detroit, okay, sure. And Spider-Man, but cutie, sure, the end. Nothing disastrous, but so flatlining. I use that word a lot, but that's really the opportune word here. And it by its pacing alone, it's almost an 8. But because it just showed so disappointing, it just I'm wondering between a 7.9 and an 8. Because I do think it was better than the Ubisoft one, though. Yeah, I'm giving it an 8 exactly, an 8.0. That's the pacing and the good parts of it just barely lifted into an 8. But that's disappointing, especially for Sony. 8 is not what you're coming to info when you're at Sony E3. That was a really big down from the last few years. I was so sure that this is the 9 something again and wins the best thing, the best conference by like clear margin, but nope, apparently not. But so yeah, that's my, and if you disagree with me, I'll have a talk. Absolutely, I love talking about this stuff. So if you have an opinion that's different, then do indeed comment. That's awesome. That would be great. But that is indeed the last vlog I'll be doing of E3. Beyond these, I don't really have a lot to say about the other conferences or showings or such and such. But yeah, there was a fun thing to do, and even with only an 8 Sony thing, I'm still I'm excited that there's this time of the year, E3, games, promises and dreams and all that. It's hype. But with that, I am all out of time. I try to be quick, but I just these are long things to break down point by point. But yeah, But I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, please do drop a like or a comment, or even subscribe or share if you want to. It would really help, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.